Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 13. When I was in fourth grade, I walked into my classroom with a beautiful three-dimensional representation of the United States that was immediately met with scrutiny because my teacher did not believe at the time that I had created this project myself. When in fact, I already told this story a little bit earlier today, but in fact, my father took it upon himself to use that project to give me the tools necessary to do something really cool. He taught me how to use graph paper and gridding in order to carry a design from one size and to blow it up into another size. And that skill gave me so much confidence and empowered me to make such a beautiful project that the adults in my life didn't think that this fourth grader had done it by themselves. Well, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about art, and we're specifically going to be talking about art beyond the stick figure. When I first started teaching in a classroom, and I'm a homeschooler, I've been homeschooling over 20 years. I have 5 kids, and I spent this much time in a classroom. And my students would laugh at me when I would draw pictures on the board because my inability to draw never stopped me from picking up a pen and drawing. I just thought it would be fun to make the kids laugh. But I'm thrilled to have with me today Jennifer and Sally with Beyond the Stick Figure. So ladies, welcome. Welcome. Sally is the right brain. Jennifer is the left brain. And they make a beautiful pair when it comes to helping kids gain confidence and skills in their artistic ability. And so both of you, welcome. I'm super thrilled to have you here. Is the company called Beyond the Stick Figure? That is what it's called, right?
Yes, that's the name of the school. So that's the name of our our signature year-long class, but that's also the name of the school that we have different classes under.
Okay, and you guys get to be the first dynamic duo that I've had on at a time. So I'm super excited about this. And we kind of talked about this before. I want to talk about left brain first, and then get into the right brain. So Jennifer, you get to kind of lead off. I would love for you to share with us why, because I always am, I work with a lot of frustrated new homeschoolers, and I'm always telling them, do less. Don't overcomplicate your life so that you don't have time to enjoy your children and enjoy life or to breathe. So I'm always focusing on the core, the math, the history, the writing, and whatever the fourth one is, science. But art is something that should not be left out. And I would love to hear from you about why it's important that we weave art into our kids' lives.
Well, I am very focused on, the and I say if you can get those into your kids, like that's really all you need to do everything else.
Could you repeat that? You froze up a second. So just repeat that same thought again.
Because I'm a consultant, just on like the 4 R's. So reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion. And I say if you can get your values and those core subjects into your kids, then you have everything that you need. You don't need to, you can expand on it as you can. But the thing is that if you don't have like the good and the beautiful, then doing that is just drudgery. Like if you were just doing handwriting over and over again and never get to copy a beautiful poem or never get to learn like very intricate script and make a beautiful manuscript that you can hang up, then it's just kind of like a chore and you don't fall in love with it. So the same with the reading. Like if you don't have beautiful literature, if you're just reading, scientific journals or just reading to prove that you can read, you don't have that passion ignited in you, and you're not going to fall in love with learning, and you're also not going to have that creativity and that artistic view on the world, because right now there's a big push for everything to be STEM. Everything has to be science, everything has to be technology, everything has to be like in-depth and technical. And that it has its place, especially in the 21st century. But I keep saying to people, if you only teach people how to build a building that can withstand a earthquake, let's say, and you never teach them about aesthetics, you never teach them about design, like our world is going to be a very boring and ugly place, because when we have people design things, we want it to be something that ignites the soul and is beautiful to look at. And that's why we have such a love of, the medieval cathedrals and such, because they go beyond just building the structure. They have a meaning and they have art in them. And so if we don't have art, even if our scientists don't have art, they can't have that creativity and think outside the box. Like they're just stuck in that box of science.
Right. It's so important. Like you had said that when we got to chat the other day, that we need the beautiful. You said it just now that, it's one of my kids is very science oriented, and we call him Data, like from Star Trek, because he's so analytical. And yet he has just enough of an artistic flair that he is able to express his love for those things in science and technology in a beautiful way. And the cool thing that happens when you mix those STEM things with beauty is that you captivate others and you draw them in. So like you were saying, even in architecture, it's fantastic to have a building that can withstand an earthquake. But if it's not pleasing to the eye or interesting, no one is going to visit the building or want to rent it or want to purchase it. So adding that creative, beautiful element helps our world be warm and welcoming rather than cold and frigid. So I completely agree with you. Now, how did you get connected with Sally?
We actually met years ago through an arts program that now she is the teacher at. So she is my children's art teacher. We have been for years, and then she became the teacher at the program, and my kids absolutely adore her. And I've seen what she can do as far as, taking these children and molding them into these wonderful artists that just have this great passion in their soul for art, even if their art doesn't look, the way we would think we want it to, or the way a museum would want it to. They have this wonderful drive to just keep creating. And so we were sitting down, I was like, you need to share this gift with the world. Like we were actually out for tea. And then so I sat down. Yes, we have our English sat down, and I because I also work as a VA, and I outlined exactly what she had to do to launch this. And she looked at me and she's like, okay, left brain, we can do this. So that's what we did. Like I took the technical side of it, the logistics and the marketing and the VA, and she did what she does best, doing the art.
So you are a beautiful representation of the STEM meeting the art, the foundation, the structure, the scaffolding, if you will, and then Sally adding the aesthetics and the technique and the artistic flair. That's cool the way that God did that. That's neat. That you have
very cool.
So then, Sally, you get to entertain us with your cool accent.
That's right.
Where are you from? Where is your accent from?
Brooklyn.
Liar. I love that you did that.
I have a friend that would kill me if she was watching this. And if she's with me, she just rolls her eyes when I say that because she's heard it 500 times. So Jennifer's not 500 times points yet, so she actually laughed. I am from England. I grew up in England and went to art school in England and came here in my early 20s when I was about 23. And so, yes, I've worked very hard to keep my accent because it seems to be very attractive to anyone in the USA.
It's funny how that artistic flair, forgive me, you made me laugh and I sucked my water into my
Beautiful. You just killed our interviewer.
Oh, I love it. But even in your accent,
Yeah.
adds an artistic flair to what it is that you're saying. Forgive me.
Well, I think it's entertaining to the ears.
It
Yeah.
is entertaining to the ears, the same way that a beautiful landscape is entertaining to the eyes.
Yeah. So you're getting like the cherry on the top of the art curriculum is you get to listen to me as well as
That's awesome.
amazing techniques. I mean, and we don't charge extra for that.
That's awesome. That is the cherry on top. So before we even talk about your classes, if I can get my question out, one of the things my father did teach me when I was little how to transfer designs over using the
gridding method. Yeah.
Gridding method. And then my children were able to sit with art instructors, excuse me, that also taught them the same types of things.
Yeah.
One skill upon another skill. So there was gridding, there was perspective, there was shading. Now my kids were older at that time, but I want you to talk about why adding fundamental techniques, maybe as simple as drawing a circle and perfecting that. How can that help our kids become better artists?
It gives them a foundation that gives them confidence. Like one of the main two is to stress the fact that there's no right or wrong in art. And that's one thing that's missing, which if you've watched some of our introduction videos, that I tell the story of what happened to me as a young mom. I have 8 children. I homeschooled them all until high school. And when I had the first 4, they were all under 5 years old.
Wow.
And the last thing I was doing was anything but, it's like I was not doing any art lessons with my kids really because I was so exhausted. I mean, it was either I was pregnant, nursing, changing 4 diapers. So I have 4 kids in diapers at one small window. So I enrolled in a fine arts program, which part of the motivation was to give me a day off. But and when I went, the art teacher during that year held my daughter's picture up and said, "This is not how we draw," whatever it was. And my oldest daughter was mortified, embarrassed, and she's never really drawn since, apart from Pictionary. And she doesn't like art. And as an artist, that mortified me, and that I paid someone to do it too.
Right.
So that was when the cogs in the wheel started connecting, and I'm like, wait a minute. And that was when I realized I went to school to learn art. I was passionate about a subject. I didn't want to teach it to anybody. I just wanted to learn it. So most teachers go to school to learn to teach. And maybe they have an affinity for that subject, but they most of the time do not go to school to follow their passion for a subject. They want to be a teacher. And I think that is for children. They are coming into contact with lots and lots of different teachers. And I've heard this many, many times from many different people that they've had teachers do the same thing to them. And it just crushes a child, absolutely crushes them. And in my classes, you're never going to do anything wrong. You're going to learn techniques and you're going to build on those, and you're going to be confident, excited, and happy and having fun, because you can have fun learning techniques. It does.
Right.
One of the things that makes my skin crawl almost is when you see children having to draw an office building to learn perspective. Really? Because it's like learning algebra. You're never going to use it. Like, why can't you teach perspective by putting some people on a beach miles away from you and saying, look how tiny they are. And then, ooh, these people are big at the front. It's like, I've watched, like, in art classes that my kids attended at these fine arts programs, like, these poor kids sitting there drawing, and these are like 9-year-olds drawing straight lines from a point in the horizon. I'm like, it does. You know what? Art should be fun. art is never wrong, and why can't you have fun learning? And if you're a mom or whoever's watching this, I don't know
Right.
who's watching this, but you are an artist and you've probably been ruined either by a teacher or by the other thing is children learn imaginatively when they're tiny or small, and then they draw realistically at some point, but if they can't do it, they've never been taught, they don't want to draw anymore because they know their stick figure looks like a stick figure. So
Right.
there are tons of adults out there that really want to just have fun painting and drawing, and they don't know how to do it. So if you're a mom, you can do this along with your kids, and you can rekindle that love of art and have fun with your kids, because the most fun about homeschooling is you learn. You learn.
Yes.
You learn
Yes.
historical facts. You learn how to dissect a frog. You've actually done that. I never did. But so you're learning with your kids, and if you're learning and creating art and going, hey, that teacher was wrong. I can do this.
Right.
And we are delving into watercolor, acrylics, three-dimensional design, making slab pots, real slab pots like a professional artist would make.
Right.
I went to school for three-dimensional design. I have a degree in ceramics, and I show kids like actual techniques that a potter uses, not build this sausage coil pot that looks like something that grandma would love but nobody else. I mean,
Right. I have one of those somewhere in a box.
I mean, there's something wrong about that, but small children can make art that is beautiful, not
Yes.
just to them. And like the parents at the fine arts program are just so excited because their children are going home and doing things outside of school, outside of class. They're like, oh, mum, I want to draw. Mrs. Stansfield showed me this. I want to play. And that's what it is. It's keeping that passion to play and experiment. And if you have techniques, you can go and dive in and say, hey, Sally taught me how to do a watercolor wash and, a simple landscape. So I can do 50 of the same landscape and practice, practice, practice and make my own cards for people or somebody
Right.
who's sick. I mean, there's all sorts of things that this can translate into. But my main goal is to give children and adults skills that they can learn and then jump off and swim and do do things that they never thought they would.
That's fantastic. It reminds me, related but not the same. I taught my son, I have 5 sons, and my youngest son delighted in tormenting all of his brothers during story time. And so I taught him to crochet to help keep the child quiet while it was story time. And we did that by challenging him to make the world's largest, longest chain stitch, which for a 4-year-old at the time was like challenge accepted. And when he was done, it was 150 feet long, and he thought that was really cool. Eventually, I taught him how to actually crochet and to add rows on. And then at some point, probably 4 years ago, I realized what a sampler was in the old days. A sampler, the purpose of the sampler was to be torn apart, to be sewn and to resewn, to be resewn, to stitch and then to restitch. And so because he would get so attached to what he was doing, and then he'd be so frustrated it wasn't coming out the way that he wanted. But then when we identified this as a sampler, its whole purpose in life is to be torn apart when it's done so that you can then practice again. Oh, did his skills increase like crazy? And so that's what I'm hearing, is that they're given the skills that, okay, these are the skills, these are your sampler skills. Now go sample. And then because as their skills increase, then their confidence increases, and so does their creativity. My son is in the process of crocheting a quilt with his own design. I've never seen this crochet design ever, anywhere, and it's beautiful, all because he did it and tore it apart and did it and tore it apart. So I love that because these skills it's transferable, when it's so much more than straight lines or curved lines or whatnot. There's so much behind what makes a picture beautiful, what makes a picture intriguing or whatever. And I love the idea of making postcards or cards that you can even make gift sets for people for their birthday or Mother's Day or Christmas. Mm-hmm. There was a little girl in my 5th grade class a million years ago, and she gave me a gift set of cards that she had practiced watercolors on. And they are I still have one. I sent all of the others out because I'm a note writer too, but I love that, capturing kids' art and their progression. And then on the back, writing their age and, what they were doing and whatnot. So within your classes then, so you actually have, so do you teach at a physical school?
It's a fine arts program that meets once a week. Well, it's Jen, what Faith Center is, because it's not just one. I teach at one campus.
It's a unique setup. It's a fine arts school for homeschoolers. So there are 6 campuses that meet 1 day per week, in 6 different locations throughout the state. And all of the teachers are professionals in there. So it's not a co-op where it's just moms coming together and divvying it up. The teachers that are hired actually have degrees and accomplishments in their field. So like dance and digital design, art, guitar, whatever it is. There's so many programs. And so for 1 day a week, my children, we've done this for 11 years now, we spend the entire day that they just do fine arts all day long.
Okay. And so for people that might be within striking distance of you, where are you guys located?
We're in New Jersey.
In New Jersey.
Yes.
So that's where the Brooklyn joke came from.
Yes.
She's not from Brooklyn.
We're in very northern New Jersey, but they do have campuses going a bit further down than us.
Okay.
Yes.
So then for people that are close enough, that is something that they could message you or talk to you on Facebook.
Yeah.
But then what about the schools? I'm not the schools, but you have classes available online. So, and in the links, there's actually a link to be able to see your academy. Tell me about the starter class, because you have a trial class. Start there. What is in that trial class?
So the trial class is based on our full year course. We designed a full year course that goes through basically everything. If you took, like when my kids took Sally's class, this is what they did the first year. And we tested it with some homeschool moms, and I said, we'd love to be able to do this every day to like incorporate into our morning basket. So we broke it down into 5 short lessons per week for 36 weeks. And we wanted to create something though that people could try it out, or at least just if they just have a week that they could invest in it. And so the trial course goes through like seeing like an artist and the very basic learning how to draw. So it's 7 lessons and they complete 6 projects during those lessons. But the projects aren't like, that's not the be all and end all. And that's what I love about this course. That's one of the things that I really encourage in Sally, is that like when my children do a project with her, that's not the end, because then they keep recreating it. They keep taking it, because it's not like just follow what I did and make it exactly this way. It's that this is what you can do. Now you do what you can do. Like, you are the artist. What can you do? And so my children always have out their sketch pads and their paints and their markers, and they take everything that they've learned and make new things. And so that's why this 7-course trial really could go on for months if you wanted to, like really adapt and perfecting your skills and integrating them. And so that's what I love, is that it can just keep going. Like, you can make this as long or short as you want it to.
Okay. And I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but since art is one of those things that grows with you, that grows with your skill set, that you really could almost like, so the trial is great because that's where you kind of get to try on Sally's accent, and you get to see how you know, what her teaching style is and how excited the kids get. But when you fall in love with it and then you jump in and you do the larger course, which is just an extremely amazing deal, by the way. So now you're in the larger course and it's set up to be a year-long curriculum, but the kids could do it again and again and again. You could repeat those lessons, right? And then rebuild on or build. They go through it one year and then it could be that you revisit it and you say, okay, in this block, you practiced or you learned this kind of a skill. Now that you've had a year and you've gone through the class, what can you do with that skill or that task?
They do built in lessons where we have differentiated projects for them to do, like to demonstrate. So from the very basic for maybe the 4 or 5-year-old to the more advanced, and maybe the child knew how to draw a little bit when they started, but now they can really build on those skills. So that is something that we incorporated into it, was like our gallery, where every so many lessons they have a gallery lesson, and Sally shows them different ways that they can use what they learn. And we have sample projects, but then they're really supposed to take what they learn and run with it and share it in the gallery so that everybody can see
if they want to.
If they want to.
Okay, I love that though, because I think empower and teaching our kids that presenting something that they've done is one of the steps of being an artist. It's a very vulnerable step for some people. That's like, I don't want anybody to crush my spirit. I don't want anybody to hurt my feelings. I don't want anybody to tell me that what I spent all this time creating was not worth their time to look at it. So a lot of times kids will be like, oh, I don't want you to see. But it's such an empowering thing. Again, I keep using that word because I really think that art has the ability to empower our kids. But when they do reveal it and they hear that, oh, I love it. It just fuels the fire to do more and more and more.
Well, when they have, this is the thing, like as a small child, they'll be proud, really proud of their work. Like small children will be like, put this on the fridge. I want, like, can you invite the neighbors?
Right.
And then they get to that stage where they see their drawing, they want to draw realistically. They're seeing their drawing for what it really looks like. If they learn the skills to recreate work that they're confident about, they're not going to be shy about showing you their work, because they'll be like, oh my goodness, I did that. Look at it.
Right.
And they will tell you to put it on the fridge. The reason why they're hiding it is because they don't have those skills. And I'm telling you, I have seen the students at the fine arts program, they are not shy about, they're like, hey, Mrs. Stansfield, look at my, like this. And I'm like, fantastic.
And
Fantastic.
I can say that like 11 years into this program, with homeschooling, like we've changed everything over the past 11 years, like umpteen times. But the one thing that we've never let go of is the fine arts program, because I've seen, like you've said, Becky, how it's empowered them. When my kids want to try something new, they've gotten that experience of experimenting, practicing, learning, performing, because everything that they do at the fine arts program is presented in some way. So they've grown up doing that. And it's just been something that's been really important, whether they decide to go into art or not. It really has impacted the rest of our studies.
Right. Well, and art has such a, even for those people that don't think that art is not central to what it is they're doing, it still is such a necessary element to add in. Like my son, that's the scientist that definitely needs to be able to express these ideas in a way that is received, and beauty is received. We're hardwired to respond to beauty and color and things that are curious or interesting or stunning. We're hardwired to respond to it. So when we can equip our kids and they feel confident, at least minimally competent, I may not be able to draw, the Mona Lisa, but at least I can, and then they can fill in the blank. And it just leaves them with it. it just makes them feel better. It just, it
Mhm.
really does. And it adds so much into their life, I think.
Mhm.
So as we kind of come full circle then, just to kind of reiterate the things that we've gone through, and that is that art is important because even in those areas that it may not seem central, those STEM issues, that it really is what makes our world warm and loving and a place where we want to dwell, not just pass through. So it's important that we infuse and give our kids the ability to experience art in whatever capacity that we can. Sometimes it's classes like the ones that you offer. Sometimes it's just offering materials and allowing them the opportunity to explore. Sometimes it's recognizing that a little boy that shows you this,
Mhm.
that if we just say, wow, there's a lot going on there, buddy. Can you tell me what's happening? And he'll say, well, there's this bug and he was being chased. And all of a sudden you hear there's an entire story behind the scribble. Sometimes it's just us tweaking the way that we look at what our kids are doing. So art, it's important because it brings warmth into our kids' lives.
Mhm.
But then giving them, like what Sally does, teaching them techniques that they can build upon so that then they can learn to flourish and to take captain, be the captain of the things that they're doing. It gives them I love what you said, Sally, that you give them the skills so that they can jump and swim and succeed. I love that.
Mm.
I also love the fact that giving kids some basic techniques with art takes away my least favorite phrase in teaching or listening to students when they say, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't draw. I can't do it. Oh, yes, you can. You can't draw it the way that you want yet, but with these skills and some practice, you will get there. So it just takes time. So I love that. Let's see what else. Thank you for sticking with me when I choked on my water, when you said that, when you lied to me and said that you were from Brooklyn. And then just coming full circle then. So the reason that I asked you guys on is that, number one, I love your heart towards kids and wanting to equip them to be able to enter this world of being an artist, because truly I believe you. There's a printable over there on the side that looks kind of like this. It's in the link so that you can find Jennifer and Sally. But I believe this, that every child is an art genius.
They are until they get ruined.
Until they get ruined. And we want to stop them from being ruined.
Absolutely. So in our program, and do not let your child be ruined by somebody.
Yes. And if they do, because some of our kids have already been ruined. And so, but you can still.
You can redeem it. You can redeem it. And yeah. I had a lady at one of my, we used to go to a place in Maryland called Sandy Cove, which if you're in the East Coast, go there for their homeschool week. It's amazing.
Really?
But I taught some classes during the week when we went to the homeschool week. And I had a lady in my class, she was in her 60s, and we did a watercolor, and she did the most, I mean, it's beautiful. It really was. She had that natural gift that don't realize they have. And she cried. And I was like, what did I do? And she's like, Sally, it's not you. It's not you. She said, when I was at college, I did art as an elective. And the professor said to me, you are so terrible. I will fail you if you stay in my class. But if you leave now, I'll give you a C. She carried that burden of pain until I met her when she was in her 60s, and she released that hurt.
Wow.
Said, you've done a gorgeous painting. I'm like, and that guy should never have been a teacher.
Yes. There's some fools out there.
For him. But so that I've heard, do you know how many, I've lost count of the adults, because I teach a lot of adult classes in libraries
Yes.
and stuff like that, or people's homes. And the amount of people that I hear, not the exact story, but similar stories over and over and over again, that people want to paint and adults want to paint. Look at the popularity of those coloring books.
Yes.
I mean, they're like, people are buying coloring books
Right.
and coloring in shapes. And there's a need for people to create.
Right.
And so it can be, in fact, with the kids as well. You bring like the whole family in.
Right. It's important because, like you were saying, that age, whenever that is, when the child wants to create something more realistically and their skill set is just not there. So they're continuing to, they're trying to do it, but they just don't have the tool set yet. And then it gets frustrating. It's safer to just say, oh, I can't draw, than to be frustrated over and over that you can't quite figure it out. You can't quite come up with the techniques. When my second son, we call him our Renaissance man, because everything he touches is he's just gifted at everything. However, when he was in his art classes and he was drawing these fantastic pictures, he was in middle school. So it was that critical age where kids are they're very self-conscious. And so I remember standing there when his buddy came and looked over the shoulder and was just like, wow, Micah, that's amazing. He goes, I can't draw, I can't do that. And my son in middle school, he goes, yes, you can. It's just a matter of learning the techniques and then becoming more comfortable doing the techniques and then practicing. And he's like, oh, I couldn't do that. He goes, oh, no, you need to. You just need the skills. You just need not the skills. You just need to know the tips and the tricks and how to apply it. So really cool. Really cool. Is she okay?
Yes, the doorbell rang.
Oh, okay. That happened to me earlier. My phone rang in the middle of another thing.
I was going to put a note on the front door saying, live video in progress. Do not ring. Nobody
That's so important.
I mean, nobody visits me, but sure enough, because I did not put a note, my neighbor.
Yeah, usually when I'm doing an interview, my husband will text me and ask me what's for dinner. So, because I forget because he works from home, and so we text from the opposite sides of the house. I usually forget to give him the communication of what I'm doing. But anyway, just to wrap up, so there's everybody out here that has kids, because a lot of people will watch this as a replay or it'll be just cycled around as it goes through. So these classes are meant to help kids of all ages. So kids as young as kindergarten can.
Yes, about as long as they can. See, I teach that we should be giving children like professional quality art materials from a very early age. Throw out that trollopy rubbish from the dollar store.
Right.
And I teach people, this is what you should be buying, and this is how the children take care of it. And I teach the kids how to take care of their brushes, their paints.
Okay.
The first thing is Prismacolor markers, and you need to take care of those. They're about $20 to $30 a set.
Right.
If a child is below a certain age, they can draw with them, but they will start banging them, like the front end on the table, stuff like that. So you could like a 4-year-old could do it, a 3-year-old could do it with, I would suggest starting off with colored pencils rather than Prismacolor markers. So you could adapt it slightly. Like during the videos, I'll be saying, if you have a 3-year-old, let them join in, but don't give them the $30 markers.
Right. However, the higher end things make a difference when you are working with markers that fray, or crayons that break, or pencils that that the tip is always falling out, or it's just like or the wrong paper. So you're trying to do watercolor, but you don't give your child watercolor paper. It's like it's not the same, and so it's definitely an investment in making sure that they have.
Yeah.
those things, but I think that's important. So you can then do this in the homeschool realm, kindergarten all the way through high school. And the lessons are easy enough that if your child is older, they can do these independently.
Absolutely. And
really
you don't have to be like, I know there are, everybody's homeschool is different, and probably most people have older children that have done some art lessons before. There'll be lots of different people seeing this, but even as a professional artist, I can benefit from doing the beginning lessons. And my goal is to bring everybody back. Sorry, I'm trying to stay in camera here.
You're fine.
Going to Brooklyn. No. Bring everybody back to the beginning. Like, you've learned probably the wrong way. Let's go back and learn the right way. And it's not, you can do these amazing abstract pictures with these Prismacolor markers when you're 18.
Right.
When your 5-year-old sibling is doing something more simplified. But these beginning lessons, some of the bloggers that are, doing the testing for us, they bought those Prismacolor markers, they've invested in those markers. I'm looking at some of the pictures and I'm like, wow, I would frame that. I mean, I would love to have that on my wall. And then you could say, hey, let's do a poster size of this. And I mean, the sky's the limit here, but don't think that because it's level 1 that an older child can't do it. They can do it, and they can benefit from it. They will be practicing those beginning skills.
Fantastic. I think it's valuable. And I think that as this is the right time of year for people to be hearing about this, because the school year for some people has already begun. I'm holding my breath until the end of September. I refuse to start before. I refuse to start. I have kids that go to college, high school at the same time. Yeah. And so my younger son, we're not going to start until everybody else starts, right? That sounds better. But a lot of people are starting right now. So they're hunting and searching for what to do.
Give a friend, if you're watching this, I know you started doing
It's fantastic. So I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me. I think this is so valuable and it's such a rich thing to add into kids' lives. So thank you. People can find you on Facebook at Beyond the Stick Figure. And the link for the school is over in the description so that people can find the classes also. So thank you, ladies, very much. Don't go away.
Okay. We won't go away.
Okay, just there. Oh my gosh. Okay. One of the things that I skimped on in some of the years of homeschooling was art. And it is something that I keep reminding myself how important it is to add this element back into the education of the kids. So easy to get distracted by what math lesson they're on or what level of writing the kids are exhibiting, or even the core things of their character and their attitude. Art allows breathing room into our kids' lives. And I think it's so amazing to give them some skills that they can build on as they grow. So what I would recommend is that you take a peek at the Beyond the Stick Figure classes. Specifically, jump in and take the trial class because you'll get a feel for, and have your kids do it, and you'll get a feel for how the skills build upon each other and how these classes are knit together, and see if it's a good fit for you and your family. All of my kids are artists in one degree or another, and the work that they produce is fantastic, sellable, beautiful, and we have so much of it that we actually have to figure out creative ways to store it. However, they would not be able to do this if they hadn't been taught the different techniques and skills along the way. Art is a lifetime endeavor. It's not something that you learn once and then you're a master, unless you're like extremely gifted, talented naturally. However, with a few tips and tricks and with time to practice, your kids can blossom into an artist also. So I want to thank you for joining me, whether you're catching this live or whether you're catching it on the replay. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and to join me and these moms and dads that are going to be joining in the future. It is so empowering to hear what people love to do with a singular focus. We get so much out of each of these conversations. The next one is scheduled for this coming Monday, and I'm super excited about that one, but you'll hear more about that later. So anyway, thank you. Make sure that you go visit Jennifer and Sally on Beyond the Stick Figure on Facebook. And if you have any questions or anything, drop them here and the ladies will be answering along the way. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.